But yeah, so I guess that's the idea. So I don't necessarily go thrifting for vinyl just to resell it. Now, sometimes I've definitely come across things where I'm like, okay, this, I don't know what this is. Anything that's sort of modern or on a certain label, um, I'll just, if I, can afford it, or if I have gift cards, which I get often for my birthday or something, because it's like a perfect present for me, from my folks or whatever. Um, if I can afford picking up kind of random stuff, I do. Um, I had this insane amount of luck at a very specific Goodwill. I'm not down there anymore, so I'll disclose the location. Uh, in Campbell, California, which is essentially a small town right next to San Jose, okay, Bay Area. Um, my folks used to live there, and I would go visit at least once a year, usually a couple more times per year if I could. And there was this one Goodwill that just consistently had just crazy shit. Um, like weird punk stuff, Estrus Records stuff, Alternative Tentacles stuff, things I hadn't even heard. There's a band I found called Triclops that's on Alternative Tentacles. I just was like, this is Alternative Tentacles. It's $2. I think it was down there. Um, yeah, of course I'm going to check this out. It's at a thrift store. This has no business being here. And of course I didn't like it. It's not good. It's like bad, weird, no, whatever. I'm not trying to be judgmental, but it's just like, it's not for me. It's just kind of hard rock or something. I don't know. And, it was $2, and I think I sold it for like $12 on Discogs or something to somebody who really wanted it, or maybe it was on Reddit. I don't remember. Doesn't matter. But anyway, yeah, at that same place, I found, there's kind of like garage punk rock stuff I found one day. It clearly had been one person's collection that was dropped off, or, I can't help but think this morbidly when I'm at a place, at a thrift store, and I'm going, looks like someone probably just died. But this was like a band called Superchargers, a band called the Brentwoods, a band called the Rantools, like all 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, sort of like underground garage punk stuff. I had heard, I think I even saw Supercharger. I'd heard Supercharger before. And it was the same with those. I'm like, I'm rescuing these from Goodwill. I'm going to give them a listen. And then I'm going to sell, if I don't like it, I'm going to sell them for way less than other people are selling them, just to like get it to a fan, or to make space on the shelves or whatever. But it's definitely not my intent to go through and like be a flipper vulture. Now, what's funny about that is so yeah, that was in Campbell. Can't remember the street. It's in like a strip mall. It's on a major street. It might be Stevens Creek. I don't remember. I don't know. But years going there, just finding. I found there's a band on Discord Records, the minor with Ian MacKay label, obviously DC hardcore shit, which I love a lot of course. There's a band on Discord from DC called Black Eyes, and I'm not sure if, for a lot of my friends and people I'm familiar with introduced them to me, and it's really fucking rad. It's like 2 drummers, 2 singers, kind of like experimental post-punk stuff. Seemingly does not sound like almost anything else on Discord. and that had been on my list. I mean, I love that they have two full lengths, and the first one is just self-titled, which is by far, in my opinion, superior to the second one, which is still good, but the first one is just fucking solid. And that had been on my want list for just a long time without. I hardly ever really directly order from like labels and stuff. I probably should more often than Discogs if I don't have, if considering the situation. I'm not spending a shit ton of money on records though, for one thing. But anyway, so it's just one of those things I tend to. I don't need anything, so it's just one of those things I'll put it out there and kind of just be like, yeah, it'd be great to find that someday. But that record specifically was definitely on my, would be on one of my, kind of must own records. Found it I was there at the Campbell Goodwill, San Jose, Campbell. I was there with my dad. He was looking at books, I was looking at records. This dude, a worker there, and this has happened to me multiple times because just if you frequent a place and you're not a dick and you're polite or whatever, I'm looking through records and this guy goes, oh hey man, a worker goes, oh hey man, got a fresh box if you want them, if you want to check them out. I'm like, yeah, sure. He brings out a box. Clearly that someone had just, there was a lot of different types. It might not have been just one person's collection, but Black Eyes, those Supercharger, but also cool, kind of 60s, 70s, there's Neil Young and David Crosby's first record and a couple other things, but I was shocked that Black Eyes record was in there. It's one of those things too where that kind of thing has happened to me so often that I need to document it more often, because a lot of people may or may not, and I don't give a shit because why would I lie, but a lot of people might think oh yeah, you found that at Goodwill. It's happened so often with crazy ass shit that from now on I need to remember to take a photo of it in store or whatever. I've done that a couple times, but need to do it more often. And that's when I'm not selling, of course. Trying to think of any other. Well, the most recent thing, and speaking of the idea that that finding what is clearly probably a single person's collection who's either given up on vinyl, just making space, or probably has passed on. I was at a Goodwill in Vancouver, Washington, just across the bridge from Portland. Pretty recently, I've been to thrift stores twice in the last 9 months. It's January right now, and before, and again, I don't have just excessive money or anything, but I would still, I'd say I'd frequent thrift stores, and if possible, I'd try to go a couple times a week to the same locations. And I was doing something that was a flipper, not vinyl wise, but I'd buy band shirts no matter what it was, not no matter what it was, but I was buying band shirts and stuff like that. The only thing I don't do is the record flipping, even though it's kind of happenstance elite. It's not a word. Anyway, I was at this Goodwill in Vancouver, and clearly a single person's collection. It was I think this is the only one I currently have in here. No, that's not true. But the first Go-Go's record, a Stiff Records, Lene Lovitch, dance remix single. I don't have them in here, but the Pretty in Pink soundtrack. This '80s club dance band that I had never heard of before called Modern Rocketry, who had this like big kind of underground gay disco hit called Homosexuality, and the B-side is Thank God for Men. And I bought it like just had no idea what it was. It's just a single, 12-inch single. I'm like, this looks fucking rad. It's pretty good. It's kind of, it's pretty 80s, and it's not like something I'm gonna listen to a lot, but I'm also not selling it or anything. It was cool. But you know, so what else was there? Stuff I didn't get in there. I mean, there was like, you know, Madonna singles, and oh, I did get the Sid and Nancy soundtrack. They had like, you know, oh, and a New Order 12-inch single, True Faith. But anyway, clearly it was someone's personal collection. Lots of 80s stuff. There was more, I can't remember. And also, during that same haul, though not like 80s or new wave or dance or whatever, I also found like a relatively rare Bob Marley compilation of some of his like early stuff that had never been released. And I think this came out in I can't remember what it's called, but it's some compilation that came out, I think, like 6 months after he died in 1980, and it said that everything was previously unreleased. I listened to the first side, and you know, I like a lot of Bob Marley stuff. On my Instagram record profile or account, I wrote, you know, there's plenty of Bob Marley songs, you know, from like the best of or the greatest hits or the legend, right? The collection. There's so many of those songs I could never hear again, and that would be fine with me. You know, it's like smells like Teen Spirit, sort of. But and it's not like valuable. It's just like relatively rare, sort of, despite not being valuable. And then there was a 1980, maybe this was from the same person's collection because it's still the 80s actually. There was an 80s Jimmy Cliff record. I think that same. Oh yeah, no, it definitely was the same place. There was also this. There was the sealed Woody Guthrie Columbia River collection. Still has the. Oh, this one was $3.99. What a rip. This is cool. I haven't even opened it yet or listened to it, but I mean, you know, first of all, Woody Guthrie. But this is especially cool for where I live. This is all about him moving here to Portland. I mean, I don't live in Portland anymore, but I'm right there. And working at the Bonneville Dam. Maybe it's Bonneville. I don't know. It's Bonneville, which is out in the Columbia Gorge. And Columbia is the other cross the big river here that goes east to west versus the Willamette, the Dammit Willamette River that goes north to south. It like the Willamette is the one that goes through next to downtown Portland. But anyway, that connects to the Columbia, which goes out to the Columbia River, to the gorge. And there's a huge, there's a couple very large dams out there. So anyway, Woody Guthrie came to, it says, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it says, Woody Guthrie came to Portland, Oregon in May 1941. He was 28 years old. The Bonneville Power, I think it is Bonneville, the Bonneville Power Administration was just 4 years old. BPA hired Woody to write songs for a film to promote public power and Columbia River development. So this record came out in 1987. But of course, he recorded all these in, I guess, 49. Oh, it says finally it was released in 1949. But it's on a label that I've never heard of before called Rounder Records out of Cambridge, Massachusetts. But it's cool because it says this little seal here. I don't know if you can really, doesn't matter. But it says 50th anniversary of the Bonneville Power Administration. So it's almost sort of like one of those like corporate, not corporate, but you know, like one of those things that's supposed to be like extolling the virtues of like a company or something. But this is different because it's like about, and you know, here the song titles are Oregon Trail, Roll On Columbia, Talkin' Columbia, Roll Columbia Roll, Columbia's Waters, you know. It takes a married man to sing a worried song. I'm not sure how that's relevant to the dam or the river. The biggest thing that man has ever done, which I'm assuming is referencing the dams. Grand Coulee Dam, that's another one that I haven't seen. I've seen the Bonneville because you've crossed that, or that's the closest to like Vancouver, Portland. It's like the first one you cross. Like if you're going out to the, you know, some of the famous like trails or like the Multnomah Falls or it's called Three Sisters. I don't know, the falls and the hikes and stuff. You go out there, you pass the Bonneville, I think. Anyway, this was a cool one. Clearly not like 80s fucking dance pop or whatever, but that was cool. Sealed. Don't know what it's worth, don't care, keeping it. And then, of course, one of my favorite artists of all time, this was there too that same day at a Goodwill. This is Neil Young, Time Fades Away. I forget what year this is, but it's a compilation of live recordings. Why don't I remember when it's from? But every song is cool. You probably can't really see it on the back there, but essentially, you know, here's the track listing, and then here is each song is from a different show and venue. So, you know, it's Time Fades Away from in Oklahoma City. You know, they've got Coliseum in Seattle, Oklahoma. Oh, there's two from Oklahoma. UCLA, Royce Hall. You know, Phoenix Coliseum, Sacramento, San Diego. Or I said Cleveland. I haven't even listened to this yet, because I don't need to know that if it's a Neil Young record that I don't have, then I'm just getting it. Like, it doesn't matter. At a good, for $3, right? And obviously, if it's in good condition, which this is, that was the thing about almost all this stuff that I got too during this haul. This was a well-preserved, they weren't in plastic, you know, but they were all very well-preserved. Like some of them like looked almost like unplayed, like the actual vinyl, including this. Guests, David Crosby and Graham Nash. Why have I mentioned David Crosby twice? So that was the most recent sort of local major score. Now forgive me because I'm doing that thing where I'm on my phone while I'm on an iPad. Oh yeah, and I'm only doing that because I'm going through my post history to continue. Oh, there was the other one. So I also found the Young MC Bust a Move 12-inch single, all part of the same thing. Tom Tom Club, you know, first record, Genius of Love. Tina Weymouth, Talking Heads, and the other guy from Talking Heads, her husband, I can't remember his name. That's Adrian, I don't know how to say any of this shit. Adrian Bellew is credited on that record. I haven't even listened to that yet either. I just got it because it was $3 and I was like, yeah, Genius of Love, it's worth that. And then this really cool, I love Duke Ellington, the one of the most celebrated pianist, jazz composers of all time, active in the 30s up until the 80s. It's this crazy career time frame thing going on with him. But I found this really cool. See that I don't even know how to do this shit. That doesn't even work. Duke Ellington it's a live recording of him with Arthur Fiedler and the Boston Pops at this gala event, a yearly gala event at this place called Tanglewood Estates. That was sort of like the home campus of like a music school, and the Boston Pops like home, some big place. I don't even know if it's there anymore. That was there since the 30s, and every year they would have Fiedler and the Pops would play this gala event called the Tanglewood Gala, and would have different guest musicians as like the marquee, as the person, playing that year. And this is a documentation. I think it's like 1962, where Duke Ellington was the guest. And it's really cool too, because the back of it is liner notes written by Duke Ellington, and it's just really like humble and super. Just he describes every song and like when and where 65, when and where he wrote them. He's like, yeah, I wrote I can't remember, maybe Satin Doll or something like that. One of his big Mood Indigo, one of his big hits, like most requested hits or whatever. You can tell he's not trying to sound like cool. He's just like, he goes, yeah, surprisingly, this song was a huge hit for us. I wrote it in 20 minutes, standing against a office building waiting for a meeting or something, So it's pretty cool. And he describes how cool the event was, and they leave. He doesn't, but the label, record label, whatever it was, the label puts like stats on the back. It says, the annual Tanglewood Gala was to raise money for the Boston Pops pension fund. It says like X amount of attendees, and $48,000 was raised for the fund, or something. 1965, it ain't bad. It's not bad now. 48 grand, 50 grand. Uh-oh. Yeah, so that was that haul. I think there was more, or I'm getting to it, or I don't remember if I put everything on there yet. But that was the most recent crazy Goodwill thing, and it makes sense to me, especially now. Like I said, despite being this really kind of obsessive collector, it's been really tough. But it's been tough to not be able to just go do not only what you want to do, but to not go do something, because going thrifting, even if I don't have money, I would just do it anyway, because it's sort of meditative and like comforting to me. So it's just one of those things that I've been doing since I could do it. And I've lived in 4 different states, and I can't tell you how many thrift stores I've been to in my life. I have no idea. It's off the charts, number-wise. So it's just something that I do, because the only things that I really collect is vinyl, books, and video games, I guess. I'm not like a video game collector, but I definitely have a decent amount of, Nintendo, Super Nintendo stuff, and, PS2, whatever. And again, most of all of my, definitely my entire video game collection, almost all of it is thrifted. Um, I think some of the Nintendo and Super Nintendo stuff is just, I still have them from when I was a kid, but otherwise, a lot of it, most of it was found and generically priced. You know what I mean? Like not going like, oh, this is Mario Kart, so we've heard of that. It's $40. You know, they don't. It wasn't like that. It was like, here's a video game, $5, whatever. And that's what's so great about non-corporate thrift stores. I mean, you know, Goodwill and Salvation Army, for instance, they're nonprofit organizations, but they are still also like a corporate chain in a lot of ways. And they started, and you know, good for them to a degree if they're actually like doing good things with that money. I've heard some kind of horror stories about the treatment of employees at Goodwills. I don't know anything firsthand, but I've just kind of heard that before. I don't know, but but you know, they started doing, I'm not sure how long ago, but last X amount of years, you know, started doing stuff, online sales, and they would do that. They, you know, they'd have someone kind of like pick through things before it made it to the floor, put it online, and charge like closer to maybe what something's actually worth, which you can't blame anyone for doing that, but it definitely kind of changed the experience of potentially walking in and finding some crazy thing. Although, again, like I said, at least here or where I am, and or even down in, you know, Bay Area, California, or that didn't seem to be the case. I have and continue to find records and things that should not be in a Goodwill, or if I were one of those people who was a pricer who sifted out things to put online that were actually valuable. A lot of things I would have done that with. I thought about getting a job at Goodwill many times, and even during this pandemic thing, because I don't currently have like a job, like a 9 to 5, you know, like a real job. I just can't justify it. And honestly, another reason, meaning because of what's going on and my current living situation, anyway, but also, this might sound kind of petty, but I always thought, oh, you know, I bet if you work at one, you get like dibs on stuff. I've heard from multiple people that you don't. That there's it might depend on which branch or state or whatever, but there are a chain, so I don't know. And I am speaking only specifically about Goodwill, but I had heard multiple times that they have some sort of policy where, you know, things have to go like out on the floor for X amount of time before an employee can like claim them or set it aside or something like that. So that kind of put a damper. I'm like, hey, maybe if I worked there, you know, I'd become a flipper and I'd make extra dough because I'd be the first person to get stuff or whatever, selfishly, you know, thinking that it'd be a perk, but or just even for my own collection, of course, but nope, apparently you can't do that. And that could have changed, or like I said, maybe it's not the case at every place, but every branch. But now, also something else I was thinking about the other day. I've definitely sold things at a little store on Discogs. I've sold and traded a lot of things on the Reddit vinyl collectors sub. I always thought, like, if I just had money or like a little nest egg to in pre-pandemic, because I'm the idea of having a small business right now, um, regardless of where you are, um, I just, my heart goes out to anybody dealing with that and struggling with that right now. So, but let's say that wasn't the case, that we weren't going through what we're going through. Moot to talk about because we are, but I'm just for the sake of conversation. The idea that if I had like money or a nest egg or throwaway dough to start my own business, I'm like would I start a record store? Like a physical location. Theoretically, the idea sounds like a dream. There's two small record stores where I live in the city I live in. Of course, there's a shit ton across the river, but here specifically, there's two, and it's like there's always a single person in there, just pricing records, listening to records, talking to it's high fidelity shit, except one person. Now I'm not like this total misanthrope, but working alone, ideal, especially in that type of environment. Sounds amazing, but I understand, and again, not even just because of the current state of things, but I understand the diminishing returns, the problematic situation with running a record store. I think I would be really bad at when you go in there and you try to sell stuff, whether it's for credit or for cash. I think I'd be really bad at that. I'd feel bad, like undercutting or kind of going like, okay, let's see, I'll give you $20 credit or 12 cash, and it's like a stack of like cool shit. I just couldn't do. I get you kind of have to bottom line it to stay open, or go, okay, I'll give you $5 for this, and then turn around and sell it for 20 or something, And I'm not trying to sound like morally superior or something, or judging anyone who runs a store. Like, that's what I'm saying. I understand that's what you have to do. I just think I'd be bad at it. I don't think I could do it. So at the very least, doing it online, you just kind of, it doesn't, you just go, okay, this is $20, or you're not having to do the buy-in, trade-in, or whatever thing, but it's not like I'm making anything remotely close to like a living or even whatever from online record sales, because that's not really my thing. I just occasionally do it or whatever. It was the same thing with starting an Instagram. I don't have a Facebook. I never have and never will. And I started an Instagram specifically just to document my record collection and to sort of get back into the idea of writing every day more often about something I'm passionate about. So I'll do that. I post a record and talk about the history of the band. Short, they're short, whatever, but kind of history of the band, where I found it, the year and label. Like I try to think of it as, one day my nieces and, friends of mine or family are gonna like inherit my collection. So it kind of felt like this way to sort of document it, and obviously share it with other people, and maybe turn people onto stuff they haven't heard before. And that's totally been the case. It's been nice, but I'm not doing it for any kind of like monetary gains, or for, I don't use my real name. I'm not like trying to get like like a writing gig or something from it. It's just something that I like to just do, that I would be doing anyway. Like, I don't know how, you know what I mean, I think. But ever since the Discogs shipping policy oddity thing recently, it was in December, maybe earlier than that, I don't remember. Um, it became a lot more difficult to just simply have a little store on there and sell things. I honestly haven't even really tried to tackle it yet. I don't have much up anyway. Like I probably have like 20, 25 items up when they changed all of that. I've sold probably 100 things on there in the past. Had not much on there now, so I haven't really cared to tackle it yet, I guess. And hearing lots of people go, "What is this shit?" Like, you know. I mean, I will eventually, but so basically, currently, I'm not selling anything through any sort of online. I won't do eBay. Anyway, so with Instagram, I thought, I am going to very purposefully not turn that into something, and again, not judging anyone who does this, because I might do it eventually, to like have the account be also kind of like a little store. Now I've seen really awesome, kind collectors on in the vinyl community of Instagram who do both, and it doesn't come across as cloying or like it doesn't come across as can't think of the right word, opportunistic, like, oh, I'm just doing this to just sell shit. There's like I don't remember the names offhand, or don't need to call anyone out or something, but there's certain people who 6 days a week they're just sharing their collection like I do, and then like a day a week they'll go, oh, and here's this, and this is for sale if anybody wants it. Like, no big deal. It doesn't come across as like upselling or anything like that. So I could totally do that, I suppose, and in fact I might, just to make some extra dough. And I've made like literal friends through doing this. I've been doing it maybe a couple years now, probably like 700 something posts. None of them are ever been something for sale. But I've got a little stack. I don't know how to do this. Stack of stuff that, if Discogs was still functioning, or if I could figure it out, would be up. So I might do that down the line. And I already have kind of, in a way, sort of prepared what I would say initially, just sort of like, I had zero intention of starting this account to sell shit. But if anyone, is a fan of this, and it's up for sale. So I might do that. Trying to think what else I was going to say, because I mentioned, or I had thought something about, oh, yeah, this is completely kind of backtracking, but speaking of that kind of stuff that I was just talking about, of record flipping and kind of just being in it as a collector, like just to do that. Now I wonder how many people who may or may not be, who may be actually seeing this or relating to what I'm saying about being a thrifter or even just a collector in general. I saw a guy one time. Luckily, I've seen this happen twice, but one, or more than twice, but like there's one specific instance where it was just like egregious. Okay, I'm in a Goodwill. It was in Portland, not the one that I found the Bill Evans record, but a different one, and actually it was in Clackamas, okay, just border city, Portland. There's a guy, okay, I found a lot of good stuff at that place too, over the years, actually. I try to go out there once. I live pretty close to it. I try to go out there once a week or so. Back when I haven't lived in Portland for a couple years, 3 years, whatever. But I try to hit that one up a lot because it was like technically outside of Portland. It probably wasn't visited as much. Found some really good stuff there over the years. One time I go in there early in the morning, weekday. Theoretically, best good time to go, either in the morning or at close to closing, if you can. Would be some sort of tip. I go in there, and of course the kind of media, books and DVDs and shit, it's like the first thing you see when you walk in, right? So I come in, this guy had taken, there were two, long ass bookshelves, two maybe 6 foot by 6 foot, two of them shelves of vinyl. And this fucking guy had taken at least 3 feet, half of one of the shelves, and put every record into a cart and was sitting there scanning barcodes on every single record. And when I walked in, it was clear that he'd taken like the first, quarter of what was there and had his cart like blocking the rest of it and everything. Right? So I'm assuming that what he was doing was he had the Discogs app, which I gave up on a long time ago, by the way. I know it sounds like I'm shitting on Discogs. I totally use it. I'm not. There's just a lot of stuff that's not user-friendly. And maybe the app's improved. I just don't really need it. But I do know, because when I did have it, you could still do this even then, was you could scan a barcode and it would just bring up, like, the record, the pressing, and everything. Which is, like, it's convenient as fuck, sure. Totally makes sense. But this guy obviously was doing it just to judge value of everything. He was doing every single one, and I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that didn't or doesn't have a barcode, especially before a certain year or private presses or whatever. And I was also sort of, I certainly am not a confrontational person, and I was definitely not going to be like, hey man, like, whatever. And so, but I was just sort of like almost fascinated. It's like, look at this fucking guy. You know what I mean? So I'm like kind of looking at books anyway, which I would have been doing anyway, and looking for, PS2 games or whatever. So it's like right there, and I'm kind of like looking at him just like, fucking kidding me? And it was like taking for, so I never looked at records that day. And of course he was separating stuff that I guess he had deemed worth flipping, I've seen that a couple of times. That was the worst. But I've definitely seen, now what I'll usually do is if I'm at the shelf or wherever their records are in any thrift store, what I'll do, even if the cover's thrashed, okay, what I will do is I will separate quickly as I'm going through the main stuff. I'll separate anything that looks interesting or that I might potentially get or know for sure that I'm getting or whatever. I'll separate that, and let's say I find like 4 or 5, maybe more things. I'll put it over here in a little separate pile, go through all that shit as fucking fast as I can, and I'm really fast at it now. And then I'll take said pile of stuff that I'm interested in, and I'll go, it depends on the situation. If there's like no one in there, I might check something right there. If there's like no one around. But oftentimes, and just to like get out of there or give people space to get in there after me or whatever, what I'll do is I'll take that stack and I'll go find like the furniture section, if they have one, and I'll sit in like a chair or a couch and like check the quality of the vinyl and to see if it's the right one and everything. Like out of people's way. I mean, yeah, I guess then I'm blocking a potential love seat purchase, you know, but so the idea of like the audacity, and sure, it was like early in the morning when the dude was just like scanning every fucking record, like, but still the audacity of that just like bummed me out, like pissed me off. I would never do that. And that's the other thing too. So a different Goodwill in San Jose, and I think it was like proper San Jose proper, again, Bay Area, Northern California. There's another one that I frequented a lot when visiting family down there, that for some reason always had, and I'm talking like over the span of, you know, multiple years, tended to always have like really good jazz shit, right? I never found anything that was like insanely crazy valuable or anything. And again, it's not my intention necessarily, but you know, just finding and like good quality, you know, whatever. I found Miles Davis stuff. You know, Gilberto. You know, trying to think of what else. So, and like I said, if you frequent a place often, might even recognize employees or just go like, oh hi, hey, how's it going, or something, like a normal person to an employee if they're stalking or they're around or something. Occasionally, and I don't do it often because I'm always kind of like self-conscious and in general and shit like that, but you know, oftentimes, every now and then I've asked like a passing employee nicely, like, oh hey, do you know if you guys have any more records in the back that haven't been put out yet, you know, that kind of thing. That one time I told you, I mean, the guy volunteered it and brought them out, and I found all this crazy stuff. There's been other times where they've been like, I'll check, you know, and brought stuff out, and there's nothing good, but they did it, which was awesome. Like, why not? I would totally do that as an employee if someone was like politely asking, especially when they're out there like already putting out like books or something, going like, oh, you're in this section, I'm here now, do you happen to have any records back there? So I did that at this other Goodwill that had the good jazz stuff often, and my mom was with me, so like there's a witness to it. I go up we're at the counter. I think I found, I don't know what it was that day, but like a I don't know, like a Steely Dan record or something, like something for my dad or something, or whatever. It wasn't Steely Dan, something. Anyway, I go up there, and it was kind of slim pickings that day, and you could tell that a lot of the they had a weird setup that I had never seen at any other Goodwill, where it was like a wire, you know, rack that was about as tall as me, that was like a record store, almost like facing, like you had to go through them like this. It wasn't like on a shelf sideways, you know what I'm saying? Like you had to flip through them like this, and there was like a wall of them type of thing. Anyway, it was kind of like slim pickings that day. I could tell that a lot of the shelves were empty and it hadn't been refilled in a while. So I'm up at the thing at the register, and it's like this kind of older dude. I mean, older than me anyway, probably like in his 50s or something. He's like, I go, hey, I thought I'd ask, do you know, because there were no employees on the floor. So I'm up there and I go, hey, just curious, like, do you know if you might have any other records in the back that I could take a look at? And he goes, oh, you're one of those guys, huh? Like that. And I go, beg your pardon, or something? And he goes, yeah, we put him out. Like, he's seriously like doing this. He's like, yeah, we put him out like around 5 every night. Like, seriously, he's like talking like Chris Elliott. He's like, yeah, you know. He goes, one of those guys, huh? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you know, the guys that just come in here and just basically, you know, obviously he was saying like a record flipper, vulture. And I'm like, oh, no, no, no. Like I had to specify, or I felt like defending myself. For who gives a shit? I don't know this guy. I don't even live in this city, or, you know, whatever. I'm just like, oh, no, no, no. That's all just for, I'd only buy stuff for myself. Just 95% true, right? And he goes, yeah, we'll probably put them out at about 5. Okay. I'm not kidding. It was like 3, 2 or 3 at the time. Now, this place was probably the closest thrift store, definitely the closest Goodwill to the where my folks were living, where I was staying at the time. So I literally went back at like 5:15 and found a bunch of crazy good shit. And that guy wasn't there anymore. So again, I know that sounds like I'm just being like, oh, he was a dick to me or mean to me. It's just, it was weird. And I get that he's probably, and I reflected on it. I'm like, I mean, he was being a dick and like immediately treating me like that I was a dick. And I totally wasn't being one. But, I reflected on it. I'm like, yeah, I bet he constantly gets douchebags hounding, and not even just for records, but for whatever. You have any Nintendo games back there or whatever, So I'm sure it happens enough, had happened enough to make him be that way, or he's just that way. But surprisingly, that's like literally one of the only times when asking an employee that someone has been that sort of like flippant and like dismissive, and also like kind of liking the sort of power trip of like, yeah, we do it at 5, and I'm like, it's okay, great, bud, it's like you're not making. It's like it feels like one of those things where it's like you're not making any specific extra money from this, so it's just for the company, and it's all the same to you. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's weird. It feels like I'm doing like a streaming thing, but I'm not. It's like I'm just making a video. But I think I'm kind of trying to steel myself up for the idea of actually maybe doing a streaming thing, kind of. I don't know. Because this could... I'm lucky enough to have an iPad, and I think you can... Well, if you can do it with a phone, obviously you can do it with an iPad, right? I'm pretty sure you can like stream like to Twitch or whatever now from mobile devices. Yeah, it doesn't look great, but who cares? It'd just be cool to talk to people. I should do an Instagram video, live thing, and like try to talk to other collectors, because like I said, I've met enough people on there who might, if I like planned it with them, or just do like little interviews or something. That'd be cool. All right, this is actually approaching almost like an hour, which is crazy. I just decided to... Why am I doing that? I usually have a little guitar pick over the camera on the iPad, because I never use the camera on this thing ever. So I put a guitar pick, because I have like a case, that it's in, and I put a guitar pick right over it. So I'm like used to always adjusting that, and I forgot that it's off because I'm filming myself. Anyway, yeah, this is 54 minutes, which I didn't think was... I was just going to kind of test all this out and see how much I hate myself when I rewatch this. I'm definitely not going to rewatch the whole thing. I don't even know if I can... The audio, I have no idea. This could be just completely worthless. Probably. For more reasons than one. Anyway, yeah, I don't know if this is going to be like something What do I have to have like a sign off now?